a Miner family winery. We started in 1996 with Dave Miner. He originally started in the wine business in '93 with his uncle with the Oakville Ranch Winery, and he started this in '96 with his wife Emily. And here we're standing in our Oakville Napa Valley cab block.
I know that it's obviously being in Napa, it gets very, very hot, very arid. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of rain, although you guys had a lot of rain over the winter and spring. Yeah. Drip irrigation seems to be very important. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that and how that plays such an important role?
Yeah, so even though we have a lot of rain through the wintertime and into spring, of course this is a Mediterranean climate, so we have almost all of our rainfall is between the months of October to about April, and then through the summer it's dry and semi-arid here. And we do use drip irrigation. If you were to compare the climates of Napa Valley versus Bordeaux, they're similar but also very different. Here in Napa, we're hotter than in Bordeaux.
Perfect. Michelle, can you tell me a little bit about the grapes behind us?
Oh yeah, so this block here, this is our estate vineyard planted to Cabernet Sauvignon, or Napa, of course, so we grow some Cab. And we're located here in Oakville at the base of the Vacas mountain range. We source grapes from a number of different growers that we have close relationships with, mostly in Napa Valley. And in addition to Cabernet and Bordeaux style blends, we also make Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. Dave Miner, the owner, he is quite the Rhoneophile, so Rhone varietals are a very important part of our portfolio, what we make. So we have a Vineyards, which is delicious. We also make Syrah. We have a Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre blend that I really love.
Yeah, how many wines do we make?
30 SKUs, give or take.
I think it's just a few.
Lots of little fun projects, but I love that.
Yeah, I think it's great
really
for a winemaker to be able to experiment with all these stuff, and it really adds value to what we're doing here too, with the Rhone wines, Pinot wines, Bordeaux wines.
So Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about the facility we have here?
Yeah, so this is our tank room here. So we have a number of different size tanks, everything from 1,000 gallons to 10,000 gallons, which don't get used very often. And I know that now at the end of July, it's not quite so interesting because everything is empty. But we're gearing up for harvest, so everything is getting clean, sanitized, it will be sparkling. Then we'll start bringing in fruit at the end of August, hopefully, starting with Sauvignon Blanc, then usually rolling into Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, then Cabernet and other Bordeaux varietals. So when we make our Chardonnay wine, we will bring in those grapes, squish them, press them, get the juice out, let the juice settle in one of these tanks for a few days, and then from there that juice will go into oak barrels. Usually French oak is what we prefer here. And then ferment in barrel. Many of our Chardonnays we choose to ferment wild, so that means not adding a known inoculum of yeast. For Cabernet Sauvignon, another wine that we make here, we will bring that fruit in, take it off of the stems, put it into one of these tanks for about 2 weeks or so, and then during fermentation we'll pump over once or twice a day until it tastes just right, that we've extracted enough color, enough tannins from the skins, and then press that. That goes to barrel, goes through malolactic fermentation, the secondary fermentation where malic acid is converted to lactic acid. And again, we're using different types of barrels, so French oak. And one of the most fun parts of winemaking, people ask me about how do you make wine? Like, what's the mindset for that? I always tell people it's a lot like cooking. It just takes 2 years.
Yeah.
So you'll have your barrels, and that's like your spices. So you'll smell your barrels. You've got your medium toast, your medium plus toast, maybe a little pinch of heavy toast, and you put those all together. That helps to augment the wine. So for Cabernet Sauvignon, sometimes we like to blend in a little bit of Cabernet Franc, a little bit of Merlot, to kind of as an homage to like a more old world style of winemaking. Dave Miner, the owner here, he really loves a good Bordeaux wine, a nice right bank. That's kind of his thing. And so we kind of look at those wines. We're not trying to mimic them, but we just want to keep that style in mind with our own winemaking here.
What I like to hear, and it's great, is that there's no set recipe. It's really you and your team tasting these barrels and coming up with what you think is right.
And that's exactly what it is. So when you look at our flagship wine, the Oracle, which is a Bordeaux style blend, every year that blend will be different. So about a year and a half post-harvest, me, Dave, Mike, we will sit down and taste the individual lots that we have of Bordeaux varietals. We Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, maybe Malbec or Petit Verdot, taste them individually, see what really is kind of shining, and then start to play around with blends. And that could be like 20 different iterations of blends before we really kind of like are able to like narrow in on what we want that wine to be for that vintage. And sometimes, you know, we'll go through 20 plus different trial blends, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, number 3 was the best.
Right.
But it's a really wonderful process because there's no recipe, there's no mathematical formula you can really do for this, because when the components come together, it's greater than the sum of the parts. So you can't always predict exactly what the combination should be because of that matrix. When it comes together, it'll form something new that you wouldn't expect.